The data is in. Childlessness is contagious. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11-time published author, and this is the Depopulation series. Are we the last biological humans? Today's video covers a subject that challenges our assumptions about human behavior, culture, and the future of civilization. When people talk about population decline, the focus is usually on economics, fertility science, or geopolitical fallout. But there is another factor at play, one that is often underestimated: social contagion. Childlessness is not just a personal choice, it is socially transmitted, and once it spreads past a certain threshold, it becomes almost impossible to reverse. Let's begin with a concept from population demography known as the total fertility rate, or TFR. This is the average number of children a woman will have in her lifetime. For a population to replace itself without immigration, the TFR must be about 2.1. Anything below that leads to long-term decline. And what we're seeing now, across the globe, is a dramatic collapse in TFR numbers, with many countries dropping well below 1.5. In demographic terms, that is considered a point of no return. Why? Because fertility is not just a biological function, it is also a cultural behavior. When fewer people in a community or society have children, others are less likely to do so. Marriage becomes less common. Parenthood becomes less visible. And over time, childlessness becomes normalized. Not through coercion, but through silence. This is what researchers call the snowball effect. The idea is simple. In societies where childbearing is no longer a dominant norm, new generations grow up without seeing families formed around them. They see friends without children, colleagues without spouses, and media that increasingly reflects solo lifestyles or alternative arrangements. The cues that once encouraged reproduction, religion, tradition, shared community, are no longer present or persuasive. In their place, a different narrative emerges, that childlessness is not only acceptable, but preferable. This pattern is observable in the data. According to a 2023 study published in the journal Demographic Research, fertility intentions are directly influenced by peer behavior. If your close friends or siblings do not have children, your own likelihood of becoming a parent drops significantly. This holds true even when controlling for income, education, and age. The behavior of one's immediate social circle has a measurable impact on personal reproductive decisions. This is not merely anecdotal. In urban centers across East Asia, for example, there are now entire neighborhoods where young people report having no married friends and no exposure to children. In South Korea, the fertility rate is now 0.72, the lowest in the world. In some districts of Seoul, it's below 0.5. That means for every 100 women, only 50 children are being born. And the trend is accelerating. Once these patterns are embedded, they become self-reinforcing. Even if the government offers financial incentives, the underlying social cues do not change. A particularly stark example of this can be found in China. After decades of the one-child policy, the country now faces a demographic cliff. In 2022, China's population shrank for the first time in 60 years. And among the most concerning statistics is the rise of so-called bare branches, a term used to describe men who will never marry or reproduce. It's estimated that 30 million men in China are now in this category. The causes are complex. Gender imbalances from selective abortion, urban migration, economic inequality, and shifting social norms. But the outcome is clear: a permanent underclass of unmarried, childless men with no pathway into family life. What's especially significant is that this isn't just a demographic problem, it's a societal one. When large segments of the population are excluded from reproduction, social instability follows. Crime rises, political extremism grows, and generational cohesion breaks down. This is not speculation, it's a well-documented pattern. Historically, civilizations with surplus unmarried men tend to experience higher rates of violence, social fragmentation, and institutional decay. But this isn't just a Chinese issue. Similar patterns are emerging in Europe, the United States, and parts of Latin America. Fertility is collapsing faster among men than women, largely due to economic precarity, declining testosterone, and social disengagement. In countries where traditional courtship and marriage structures have eroded, men are increasingly dropping out of the reproductive cycle altogether. At the same time, cultural messaging reinforces this decline. Childlessness is often portrayed in media as liberation, especially for women. Career freedom, economic independence, and self-actualization are presented as incompatible with motherhood. While these narratives reflect genuine frustrations with the burdens placed on mothers, they also send a broader message: that parenting is outdated, burdensome, or unnecessary. And once that view is absorbed at a cultural level, the decision to opt out of reproduction becomes not just personal, but socially validated. There's also a generational element. Many millennials and Gen Z adults grew up during times of economic instability, family breakdown, and environmental anxiety. They were told the planet is overpopulated, the climate is collapsing, and the future is uncertain. The logical response? Don't have kids, delay, or opt out entirely. And while these concerns are understandable, the result is cumulative. The more people who choose not to reproduce, the more others follow. And the fewer children there are, the less incentive there is to invest in future infrastructure, education, or long-term culture. Some researchers now warn that this cycle may be irreversible. Once a society drops below a TFR of 1.5, historical data suggests it almost never recovers. Countries like Italy, Japan, and Spain have been below this level for decades, and despite government programs, nothing has reversed the trend. This is why the term point of no return is now being used in policy discussions. Not because fertility could never rise again, but because once the cultural mindset of childlessness becomes dominant, reversing it requires more than subsidies. It requires a total reorientation of values, incentives, and belief systems. Let's look at the data more closely. In the 1970s, the average global fertility rate was over 4 children per woman. Today, it's about 2.3. By 2050, it is projected to fall below 2.0 globally. In developed nations, the picture is more severe. Germany sits at 1.4, Italy at 1.3, Japan at 1.2, and South Korea, again, leads the collapse at 0.72. In the United States, the national average is now 1.64, the lowest in recorded history. More than 1 in 4 women in their 40s have no children. Among millennials, many express no intention of ever becoming parents. Among Gen Z, that number is higher still. The effect of peer behavior is strongest in urban centers, where childless lifestyles are most visible. Cities like New York, Berlin, and Tokyo have become epicenters of cultural delay, where adults spend their peak reproductive years building careers, traveling, or focusing on personal development. In these settings, the idea of having a child can feel not just impractical, but alien. This has led some analysts to conclude that childlessness is no longer a symptom, it's a virus, a socially transmitted ideology that, once dominant, rewires how society functions. Schools close, family law becomes irrelevant, intergenerational transfer of values declines, and the future becomes abstract, something discussed, but no longer lived. The long-term effects are sobering. With fewer children, the average age of populations rises. By 2050, nearly 40% of Japan's population will be over 65. In South Korea, 1/3 of all citizens may be elderly. This creates unsustainable burdens on healthcare, pensions, and labor. Younger generations are asked to support aging populations they did not help create. This breeds resentment, fatigue, and social withdrawal. It also increases reliance on immigration or automation, neither of which addresses the root cultural shift away from parenthood. Governments have tried to intervene. South Korea offers large cash incentives for each birth. Hungary offers tax exemptions for mothers with 3 or more children. France offers subsidized childcare and parental leave. But the response has been weak. These programs rarely move the needle more than a few decimal points, because the issue is not money, it's meaning. In cultures where parenthood is seen as an act of purpose, people still have children despite hardship. In cultures where it is seen as optional or burdensome, no amount of cash can create desire. This brings us to a deeper conclusion. The depopulation crisis is not only demographic, it is philosophical. A society that no longer values parenthood will not survive, not because of punishment, but because of indifference. Children are not just biological extensions. They are civilizational anchors. They connect the past to the future, root people in community, and give continuity to meaning. When a generation stops reproducing, it is not just stepping out of biology, it is stepping out of history. So what can be done? This series does not offer easy solutions, but it does suggest a necessary shift in conversation. If we want to understand the future, we must first acknowledge the present. We must recognize that reproduction is no longer the default setting of modern life. That childlessness spreads through networks, institutions, and ideologies. That recovery is not a matter of funding, but of value. In closing, the data is clear. Once fertility collapses past a certain point, it does not return. The decision to delay or avoid parenthood becomes cultural, then generational. And the longer that cycle continues, the harder it is to break. If we are the last biological humans born of natural reproduction, we should at least ask why, and what we're replacing it with. Hi, I am Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and SOS, School of Soul has a brand new series, the AI and Future Technology series. Look, you know the world is changing, and no, it's not going back to normal. Normal is over, and what's coming next is beyond anything we were prepared for. The School of Soul, AI and Future Technology series includes 319 videos on 1. The Download Society, How Data Has Replaced Destiny. 2. Predictive Future. Your next moves aren't random, they're forecasted. 3. Social Credit Systems. The behavioral economy now governs access. 4. Hive Mind. Synthetic telepathy and collective algorithmic control. 5. Nanobots inside you. Medical, military, and programmable intrusions. 6. Grief Tech. AI-fueled digital resurrection and simulated comfort. 7. Uploading your mind. consciousness transfer and data-based identity. 8. Deep fakes plus AI clones, the replication of reality and identity theft. 9. Quantum humans, the merger of biology with quantum systems. 10. Digital afterlife, where your data goes when you die. 11. Resurrection science, reviving life through synthetic methods. 12. Immortal science, the end of death as we know it. 13. Longevity science, gene editing, anti-aging, and bio-upgrades. 14. Designer babies, engineered perfection before birth. 15. Artificial wombs, birth decoupled from the female body. 16. 3D printing, printing organs, limbs, and even humans. 17. The humanoid era, the rise of synthetic beings among us. 18. Legacy humans, the slow phase-out of unmodified analog people. 19. Smart cities, algorithmic environments that watch and decide. 20. Cloud-based societies, citizenship without borders or bodies. 21. Hackable humans, emotion, memory, and behavior under code. 22. Biometric scanning, your body is your password and your prison. 23. Sex tech, intimacy reprogrammed by machines. 24. Extinction of gender, fluidity, deletion, and design of identity. Every topic is fully explored with real-world technologies, patents, case studies, ethical analysis, and future forecasts. These aren't someday discussions. This is already happening. Join the SOS School of Sos Vault to overstand the future before it's implemented on you.